great motivator for people. It helps them stay inspired in their job, particularly if they have kind of a boring job. You know, we all have people that have good intellect that somehow ended up in kind of a boring job. Well, this is a great way to keep them inspired in your organization and learning, and you know, who knows, maybe they'll want to learn something more about a different department. So that's the kind of person you would want to choose as it. And one place I worked, we had like a contest. They had to like get selected. I mean, it wasn't just, okay, I'll do it. No, you know, we have certain criteria here. And this is going to be an extra, and you're not going to get paid for it. So we're looking for certain kind of people that lean this direction. And people self-select. They also need to be good communicators. They have to be good listeners. We all know people that can't stop talking. They are not good assessors, right? They have to be people that are kind of probing in their minds. You know people that are like thinkers like this. You're going to ask them to write, so they have to understand that going in. Not everybody likes writing. Writing reports is part of being an assessor. Body language. Give them some basic skills in body language. How do you read body language? How do you approach somebody so it's comfortable for them? How do you not get in their space? When you have to look in their drawers. I mean, you know, come on, you know, it's like, it's part of it, right? All right, diplomacy. This is very important. Diplomacy and confidentiality. Knowing when to say what and knowing when to say nothing. Very important skills. And that is really something that you have to spend time with your internal auditors on. Right? Because when you're an assessor, you keep your mouth shut with other departments, with other people, until the assessment is done, right? It's their spot.
And it's, if you're in the training role,
yes.
training people to do assessments and so forth, fitting in right with that is weeding out those who have a tendency to see it as an ego exercise for them,
right?
Or trying to get one up on someone. That's horrible assessment.
Yeah. Right.
And you usually see it with external auditors rather than self-assessors.
That's right. And that's why it's great to give them practice and see how they do with it. Yeah, you don't want to blabbing all over the company what they found, what they didn't find, ever. Not during the assessment, and really not afterwards. So learning to keep your mouth shut, that can be big for certain people. Okay, also they have to get some auditing skills under their belt. And this is always a fun one. You know, you bring somebody in a room, you have them do something, and you have them leave, and you say, okay, what did you observe just now? Practice, role play. It's fun, and they love it, because it's like, well, I didn't see that, or I missed that. You know, on the Discovery ID and CSI, how they bring a person in and eyewitness, he looked like this or he didn't look like that, and they're always half the time wrong, right? So teaching them to be good at observation, critical perspective, right? Critical thinking, critical eye. How to control an audit. We all know people that we've audited want to go on and on and on, right? How do you control an audit? You know, if you have an audit scheduled for 30 minutes, but the person wants to tell you their life history and then all the grievances they have about the company or their department or their boss, right? Okay, well, you can pick up some interesting points at that point, but you also have to be out of there in 30 minutes, so you need to continue to control the audit. Well, people struggle with that. So junior auditors have to get some practice in that. So again, role-playing is a really helpful tool. And you can always find people that like to be the devil's advocate, to play the role, so that part's easy. Let's see, other auditing skills to spend some time on. You know, some of these get into more advanced roles. Avoiding conflict, obviously, if they're auditing a process and the person says, no, that's not how we do it. We don't do it that way. Okay, just write it. Thank you. Write it down, right? But you have to tell people that. Otherwise, a lot of people do like to argue. And so we don't want that within an assessment role. It might be fine if you're looking at solutions, argue back and forth about solutions down the road, but at the assessment time, conflict is not a part of it. Any questions on assessor characteristics?
One comment there, being on the receiving end of the audit is an important thing for an internal auditor
Yes.
to be reasonably frequently experienced.
Yes. Yes. And I always gave our folks basically a tip sheet. Like when the auditors come, here's the rules. Stick to the point, answer only the questions asked, provide confidence and pride in what you do. Yeah, kind of.
To be all fair, give them the same tip sheet for your internal audit that you would give them for the external auditors coming.
True, could be easily done.
It's
Anything
also
else? Yes.
Gail, a person being selected to do an assessor's job must be someone who has not only been in charge of several different operations, but has consistently passed inspections with high marks, therefore knows how to manage all the aspects.
You're talking about the
of it.
trainer of the oddities?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, a trainer should have.
I would try to
some
stay
experience.
civilianized.
Yeah, trainer should. Okay, you don't want to view this audit committee as being in any way confrontational. Right? So, and that's a good point because you don't want to feel like you're ganging up on them. Right? Particularly somebody that's timid. You want to, protect them a little. Okay, so how do we assess? Basically, there's 10 steps. And some of it we've already talked about. The first step to it is basically decide what you're going to assess, right? So we talked a little about that. Have there been any recent issues? Anywhere you think you should? Is there an assessment schedule that you're trying to follow? Or simply choose a relevant process from an appropriate area. Step 2, determine the type and level of assessment. Now, in most organizations where I've worked, there's different levels of assessment, right? So, and again, you wouldn't give a junior assessor, a full program level assessment, but you might give them a spot inspection, right? So, again, have that defined and have it defined up front. And one of the handouts I'll give you later shows that there can be different definitions to what each of these are. So you would want to identify that before you begin the assessment, not as you're going, where you get into scope creep, right? Okay. 3, we're going to parachute in and do a surprise audit, but I want to keep the whole thing low key. So obviously you got to decide that up front too. How are you going to approach this assessment? Okay, choose thoughtfully. Oh, here's some definitions. Spot inspection. Okay, this would be just a quickie. You go in, you check one thing or one step of one process or just one checklist or one piece of it, right? Very manageable piece of it. Spot inspections are wonderful and people love to do those. So that's a great one for junior level auditors to try. Okay, a review. Okay, in a review, what I like to do with a review is you take a process and you look at that process, everything that's related to that process, be it a form, be it a checklist, be it instructions, drill down into those things, records. So you've got the process, but then you've got all these pieces that go with the process. So what you would want to do is make sure, if you're going to do a mid-level assessment, is that you stick to that one process, but you also look at all the things that go with it, that correlate with that. That's how I define it. You can define it any way you want. And then a program level assessment would be as if you went to like a functional area. So like at my last job, like one of the functional areas was munitions. Okay, so in munitions, you might have